Welcome to the Pro Design Builder podcast, a show where professionals and entrepreneurs share their stories, strategies, and secrets to building a thriving business and a successful life. I'm Sam, your host, as we dive deep into the world of life experiences and entrepreneurship. So before we get started, I'd just like to thank our sponsors, the Pro Design Builder, which is a coaching consulting firm for real estate investors who want to build spec homes and multifamily projects. The Pro Design Builder, it's not just about building a business, it's about building a vision and a life by design. Also, I want to thank our other sponsor, the Nest Collab, which is an incubator for real estate investors. If you want to learn, grow, join the link for our community, our Facebook community, in the description. As you guys know, foster care is a mission that's near and dear to my heart. I've fostered 4 kids. I've adopted 2 kids. I'm currently fostering now. The work in foster care is never over. If you ever feel the need to give to our foster care initiative, there'll be a link in the description for the Patreon. Some of the things that we support buying beds for foster and adoptive parents. We support providing additional meal as the primary cook in the house. I know how great it is when someone blesses us with a meal. It allows us to just take a little bit of heat off of all of the planning that has to happen. And then also too, we support strong families. So having an additional date night so the parents could connect and grow is something that we feel strongly about, and we feel can curb the need for a child. So without further ado, Amira Therese, she runs a pot. Hopefully I said that correctly.
But I'll get you there.
That's all right. Imperfection is a gift.
It's a gift. Yeah.
Runs a podcast called Interview with a Foster Child. And this particular episode is near and dear to my heart because she's going to be talking about a perspective that typically isn't heard, which is aging out of foster care. So she interviews and she tells her story and the story of other foster kids and alums of the challenges that happen when you age out of foster care. So I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I actually love the new version of my name, but just for the audience, I'm Amira Therese.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to start this podcast because aging out is such a crucial part of foster care. We don't age out with the tools that we need. We very rarely get the education. I mean, in general, people aren't, and even if they're not.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, am I?
Okay, go ahead. You're good.
Breaking up now? Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So foster kids, we leave with even less of the fundamental building blocks than, you can't blame the education system. We're moving around so much. Even if we do have a couple of foster parents here or there who do invest that time, we're moving again. We're not retaining anything. We're in survivor mode. And then when we age out, very often, quite typically, we start going through those stages of adolescence and all of the things. We have freedom now. We have expression. We can go do what we want. And that freedom is a challenge after we age out, because now we're going to go through all of those stages that we've been repressing. And we're gonna try to go out and not do all the things that we need to succeed. And then we also don't have a cushion to fall back on either. So it is important.
No, it is very important. One of the things that I do before we, dive into, your childhood is we're very active in serving the homeless. And that's something that I do with my kids. It's something I've been doing for years prior to having kids is serving the homeless. But what happened is I grew up around all different types of people. All right. So I have a level of comfort to be able to speak to all sorts of type of people. And I like to get people's story. And when I sit down and I talk to them and I find out what happened? And it always starts with the disruption of a family, right?
Mm,
And then it goes from the disruption to the family, then it has the trauma, and then it has mental health aspects, and then the homelessness happens. But it starts with the instability and the not having a cushion that you describe.
mhm. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, and in my personal case, I mean, my family was separated by the time I was 14 months old. My parents both had issues with each other. They're right out of the 60s, partying, rock and roll. Kids happened to them, and then they just decided they weren't that committed. But
mhm,
we became kind of pawns back and forth. They wanted each other's attention. They used the kids. And eventually, what happened, my mom would move and not talk to my dad and then send us to on an airplane 4 and 5 years old by ourselves to our dad because Christmas was coming. So that's just kind
mhm,
of how flighty our lives were.
mhm.
And then foster care was also in the 80s, wasn't really a thing. There was what was called the respite program,
Yep.
and my mother liked to use that to party
Mm,
and just kind of get a relief from
yep,
us, and it became permanent in the year 90 when
yep.
the state finally came in and said we're getting
So
involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So how old were you? And then what were the conditions that brought you into foster care?
Oh my goodness. So when I went in, when it was like after the respite scenarios, when I was going into care, when the whole saga started, I was 6, and it was abandonment. I mean, she had an addiction to gambling, as well as a few others. And there's a casino there in Sholo that she left us in the car for about 8 hours while
Mm,
she was in doing whatever. And then a security guard had called the state. That was when they first really got involved and decided they're going to start monitoring everything. But I mean, honestly, I have several short books,
mhm,
several. Yeah, I'd have to write like an entire saga series to narrow it in because I've had so many different experiences and lives, and it's just all of those things added contributed to my displacement, and as well as the incentivized Safe Families and Adoptions Act, which incentivized displacing children. And after the 90s, I had no hope. I was a
mhm.
permanent ward of the state.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Okay. All right. So let's just go back to your childhood. What were you like as a child?
Rowdy.
Rowdy.
I was rowdy. I was
Very
very
early. Very
creative.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hyper for sure. I was very creative, I still am.
Hmm.
Um, Won my first collegiate poetry contest on the Crucible in 2nd grade, and I still remember I got a plaque from George Bush Sr., who was president at the
Oh
time,
wow.
and it was like the most amazing thing that I've ever done
Yeah.
yet,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so I was really creative, I was very protective. I was the parent to my parents.
Yeah.
My dad was more independent than my mom, and it's funny to talk about your parents this way, but I
Correct.
still had to parent my sister. It's ironic how responsible I was then,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah.
actually tells the story of, regression for foster kids and,
Hmm.
what we go back into. We do regress, we go back, we will cover all of the stages that we missed out on. It's
Yeah.
how and when we do it.
Yeah, for sure. Dive a little deeper into that perspective that you just started sharing about the different stages, if you can.
Sure. So, I mean, I think so what happened to me really, I just had to be an adult. My kids, I know before you and I were kind of discussing like the kids saying unfair and things like that. Um, my kids, when they complain about folding laundry, I'm like, at 8 years old, I was doing laundry and cooking for everybody in the house. How are you not able like to
Yeah,
fold a
exactly.
sock? So, and I
Yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah,
want them to
exactly.
have that. But
Correct.
so what I went through was I was a mother before I was mothered. I was an adult. I was the one who had to beat up my sister's bullies or don't come home. Those were words said to me. I was the fierce protector. I was everything that everybody else wanted me to be. And I wasn't able to start discovering my own identity until really teen years. And by then, I just started getting a little bit erratic. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was pissed off. I was
Yep.
like, I had been held back from so many things and told that so many parts of me were ugly or irresponsible or a waste of my own time. And I'm like, I'm doing all the things that I'm not supposed to be doing right now. Like, let me waste my
Correct.
time. Let
Mm-hmm.
me be a kid. Let me be creative. Let me have a bunch of bad ideas before I have a good one. So what
Correct.
happened was when you're in foster care, you don't get to have, in most cases, bad ideas. Those will get you committed or your meds
Correct.
up, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So you don't get practice these. So you start doing it when you age out. As soon as you hit 18, you're on your own. You start going through, oh, this is a stage that's been has been repressed for a while. This
I
is
wanted
my
to do this. Yeah.
childhood, my
Mm-hmm.
mountain goat stage. I'm going to go find caves and build a fort, or I'm going to go party now in my 20s,
Yeah.
but I'm going to do it like a teenager and
Mm-hmm.
act like a teenager, and just so you go through, you will, and that's in one of my episodes. I talk about how everybody makes mistakes. We just have to make all of our childhood mistakes and our adult mistakes in the time that we age out. There's
Correct.
a spotlight on us, and we start making all the mistakes that people use that they get to learn from throughout normal childcare. We
Mm-hmm.
have to do it all and fall flat on our faces. We're not learning. We're just going through
Mm-hmm.
stages that are inevitable. When we have them is up to how we're raised.
Yeah, and be and and for you not have a safety net, right? So a lot of
Yep.
people when they have troubles, I'll just use the example of drug use, right?
Mhm.
You have parents that could commit you to a center to allow you an opportunity to to regroup and to recover, so then you could come back to the home and then kind of work
Yeah.
towards building a life, right? You don't have this luxury, and I do call it a luxury because there's a lot of things that are missing for you in not having a safety net. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit more?
No, that's absolutely a great point because, the safety net, like you said, let's say, if a foster kid does drugs and falls on their butt and it becomes homeless, it's expected. People just expect the very worst for us. So expecting a cushion or any support, even that hypothetical that you just went through with the drug addict, he has a reason. He has people telling him he's valuable. Okay. He has people saying, come back. Even if he makes it hell on them, he has parents or family or a network saying, come back. We want you to get better. We want you to go to rehab. We don't have that for the most case. We have foster parents on social media, or maybe they'll don't have somebody that's like, doing yourself. We have to figure that out, and we're doing it. We have to find our own value when we grew up without any. And so
Correct.
we're finding our identities, our value, and our purpose all in the same time. And it's very difficult. And drugs and jail, those are very high
Common.
statistics for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we I see because I'm on the ground floor, right? I'm actively plugging the gaps that are missing, right? And what
Right.
I'm seeing is there's a pipeline for several different areas. There's a pipeline to for drugs, a pipeline to homelessness, and the pipeline for the women to be strippers, or this
Yep.
is kind of like or if you had a child young and you were in the system, for your kid to now be a kid in the system, right? There's all of these
Yeah.
patterns that we tend to see from having this initial, I would call it the the cards you were dealt. How you doing, Sam here? If you're a faith-based entrepreneur and you want to network with other faith-based entrepreneurs in our mastermind group, there'll be a link in the description. Feel free to click the link to get connected with us. There'll be limited spots, but we're really trying to grow the kingdom. And if this is something that you're interested in, click on the link below where we're connecting with other kingdom-based entrepreneurs. Have a good day.
Right. I can actually speak to that. I aged out and decided to go back to the same mountain, back to the drug addicts where my dad lived, where the criminals were out in Snowflake. They're so far down a dirt road, they get away with everything. Correct, and that's where I went. I didn't have anywhere else to go. My mother was often wherever the heck she was, she was always, and definitely not an inviting person after care, now I'm competition because I'm her, I'm an adult. Yeah. So I went out, I went back out to Snowflake, found the cutest guy on the mountain because I needed to stay. Went over. But I needed a place to stay. I needed a way to survive. I wasn't getting along with my grandparents. I had no relationship with them. So I shacked up with the cutest guy on the mountain, got pregnant, entered into my first domestic violence relationship. And then CPS got involved after I left him. His parents got very upset. He was a drug addict and they were dealers and stuff. So they put on me the onus of they were saying that I was what they were because I wasn't letting them see my daughter. I wasn't letting him see her either because he's abusive and his family were drug addicts. Lots of drugs out there. So after 6 months of me and my daughter living on our own and doing our own thing, I was working, single mother. I had a CPS caseworker at my door saying that they had several reports of abuse and that I was doing drugs. I had to do, I ended up losing her to the drug addicts, my ex's, her father's parents. Yeah. Criminal history galore. And, because they didn't have to prove I did drugs. Because of my history, I had to prove I didn't. I had to do UAs for a year every week. I had to come in. There was nothing I could do to prove them wrong. They don't have to prove fault. You have to somehow figure out how to prove you're innocent, especially when you come out of the system. I ended up self-representing and eventually finding my power. And they tried to TPR, they did TPR me. And I overturned I sued CPS. I was a self-represented litigant. I had the power of, I don't know where it came from. And I overturned an Arizona adoption under a TPR and I got my daughter back full custody and it was hell, but I did it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. I'm proud of you.
It helps that CPS was being sued in that county at the time, though, by the way. They had a lot of allegations. So.
Okay, they had some other stuff going on. But whatever helps. And I think what's probably you could probably speak to this because I don't know. But the challenge is they probably put all of these parameters, because we see this quite often on, what it takes to get your child back, right? Whether it's, your housing situation, whether it's having certain beds and having certain things. Can you kind of just walk us through what that process looked like for you?
I mean, it was insane. I have lived in foster homes that I wouldn't foster a dog in. And for them, the way that they treated me, one time CPS came over, my daughter's bed wasn't made. Hey, spoiler alert, it never is. We don't make our beds. Sorry. I mean, if that's what you do in your house, awesome. Yep. If my bedroom bothers you, please don't enter it. And we played games on it. We had stuffed animals all over. She had more stuffed animals than bed space. And we used to she didn't like to have the stuffed animals on the ground because she always felt bad for the one that wasn't on the bed. So they made that an issue, that she was sleeping in dangerous conditions, that she was prone, that the situation I had her in was prone, she could suffocate at night, be smothered, and made it like, because they had nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to in one report, they said she was 2 at the time. They said that, and this is a report that they made, that
Yep.
I had left her on the couch unattended while I went into the kitchen to cook. That is an absolutely true story. She was walking at 8 months old. What do you want me to do? Kick her off the couch every time I walk away? So these are like the way
That's
that
very normal
CPS
stuff.
treated me. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they came at me so hard. And then the thing that they did was they used my mother against me. In court, they brought up my mother more than they brought me up. They brought up my habits that they expected from me because of my mother, because of her history. They barely talked about me in court. They had nothing to say. I was a communications director for the Arizona Montessori Coalition. I was doing my thing. I was a single working mother doing my dang thing. They had nothing on me. They had to bring up my mother. They actually even flew her in as a witness against me, and it could not have played in better for me. The judge saw how erratic she was at that moment. So
Oh,
they
wow.
pulled out all the stops. When I first lost my daughter, they gave me a public defender who did not speak English. I
Oh,
had my
wow.
18-year-old sister in there taking notes. She was studying law in school and trying to say, hey, no, ask the judge this. And so it was stacked against me. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things are, and I will prevail.
No,
So,
great, great, great. No, that's amazing to hear that perspective, because people don't know or understand or hear those challenges that have to come, right? Obviously, you're going through this challenging, time in your life. You're trying to figure it out. You're a single mom. You're working, and you have these, they're, I guess, grandparents were, on drugs and stuff like that, and you're still
yeah,
trying to work to fight to, get your child back.
yeah. I mean, and to put a child in a home, I mean, that's how corrupt CPS was. I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
put her in a home where her grandfather, her paternal grandfather, was currently on probation, and I kid you not, for selling marijuana to one of the judge's daughters
Oh,
outside of the
wow.
high school. And he was on
Mm-hmm.
probation for 8 years. His probation wasn't even over yet. It was like he was in his last year. And this is who I'm up against.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like I was fighting, like I was going insane. I thought, like,
Mm-hmm.
when I went in, when they tried this on me, I went in with so much confidence. I'm like, you can't get me. You can't just take my kid here. Like, go at me. And they
Yeah,
did,
they did.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a uphill climb,
Yeah.
coming from there. So, who would you say was your biggest influence growing up?
Who or what?
Who or what? Yeah,
Ah,
or did you have one?
it's such a wow. You know what? I didn't expect to be stumped. Um, I am so stunned that I don't have an immediate like an answer right now. I don't think I did have. I know I
But
had a lot of bad influences, and
mhm,
I had a lot of people in different ways. But
I kind of lost you for a second.
oh, I said I didn't have enough direction to even know that
To
I had an influence.
had an influence. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
I
wanted I just
really
wanted
don't
to
know.
gain I wanted to gain that perspective, because you're forced to kind of have to figure out life, on your own, and to get the perspective of not really having an influence, or positive one at least, right?
Right.
Is helps people kind of understand, what this looked like for you. So, okay. Was there a defining moment in your childhood? Were you aware of everything that was happening to you, just during your time in foster care? Were you aware?
Oh yeah. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you, it saved my life because going through foster care in the 90s was different. Um, 400,000 children went missing out of foster care during the from 92 to 98.
Mhm.
No milk cartons. Where did they go?
Yeah.
I was a redhead. Nobody messed with those. I
Mhm.
was loud. I was very wiry, and I was ready to fight. I have
Mhm.
seen my siblings be abused by foster parents. I've had foster parents try. I am an equal contender. I don't know what happens, but there was some survival in
Yep.
me. I was 60 pounds soaking wet, but there
Mm-hmm.
was something in me that they couldn't take me down. I had a lot of experiences that were really close calls. But what I love, and my personality, who I was, my life. Wasn't trying to like piss people off, but if we're playing the touching game, I'm going to touch last. Now I'm different now. I'm reformed, but I look, if somebody hits me when I was a kid, I just went into, this is okay. It's on. Let's do this. And then they
Mm-hmm.
had to get me out of the house, So
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah. No,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
no, it makes sense. I mean, I remember I was a fighter. Right, I was in some deep water during this epidemic that was happening, and I can. There's this one story in particular that I just started telling, and I never told before, which was I walk into a bathroom and two kids start jumping me out of no reason, and I'm fighting and trying to fight at least. They just kind of caught me off guard, dragging me. I'm slipping on the floor and stuff like that. And in the end, they kind of flung me, and I hit the back of my head, on this on the drain, right? And I remember sitting there with my knees tucked up, my arms wrapped around, and I just started crying, and I was just so mad, right? I
yes,
was
mad
I was just
tears.
so mad, like, why is this happening to me? Why am I just getting attacked for no reason? Why is life so hard with no understanding, right? And
Yeah.
then that I remember that day, I was like, no more,
Yeah.
no more.
Yeah.
If you got something to say to me, you're you're gonna get it.
Yep.
Right? And that saved my life, right? The
Yeah.
problems kind of, I got in more fights, but the problems went away. Like, they didn't come finding me, right?
Right.
Because once they come find me, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I
So
didn't have a lot of people looking for me, not for
no.
a fight.
No. No, that's part of that survival instinct that that has to happen. So
Absolutely.
you know so you know so you entered foster care at 6, and then you completely aged out. What were your early teenage years? What did they look like?
Um, so you're going to have to be more specific, which ones. Every year was a new life.
Every year was it? Okay, all
I
right.
mean, here, I'll tell you something that happened in my teenage years. I went to juvie a lot, and I look back and I know everybody's like, I'm innocent. I was a foster kid. That was my crime.
Mhm.
So, and sometimes it was just because they didn't have placement. So I went to school in juvie a lot. But anyways, recently I got him from Sholo. 30 plus homes. So, the state's doing a great job when even they stop counting. So I was displaced more than 30 times. One time, I remember when I was 15, I went to my mom's house and, or just before I turned 15, I went to my mom's house for a visit. I was with this really old lady foster mom. God bless her. I don't even know how she sat up straight, let alone was the foster parent to a teenager. So she had no
Yep.
idea where I was at all times.
Oh,
Well, I
okay.
went to visit my mom. It was kind of my favorite placement actually with that lady because I could do whatever I want. She just lived in the
Yep.
house with me,
Yep. Mhm.
um, but so I went to visit my mom's. Well, I didn't go back. I didn't go back into care for maybe 4 months. Well, then the state wouldn't find me a foster home, but I was homeless and my mom wouldn't let me live with her. Well, then I got into a group home. I ended up being in that group home for about 7 months. Then the state found me. They didn't even know where I was for
Oh, wow.
almost a year. Then they found me and then arrested me for being a runaway when I was in a group home for 7 months because I didn't have anywhere else to go because the caseworker would not put me in another home.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's the kind of crap that I went through. That's the kind of crap a lot of us went through. I mean, they lost me for a year
Mm-hmm.
and then put me in jail for it while
Yeah.
I was doing my best at the age of 15 to get my butt off the street because nobody was going to help me, not even the state. And by the way, this is the night I had no idea who to call. We didn't have Google. I didn't know what to do. I mean, go turn myself into the police. I hated them. They were
Mm-hmm.
the worst,
Yeah.
for reasons I saw with my parents, reasons I experienced in my own life. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to go to the police station and ask for help. And then police, I'm sure you'll do that for me. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was one of and that was just, again, a year of my teenage life. And that was an incredible year. I mean, I hitchhiked to California with a trucker. I mean, there was a lot going on. The fact that I'm alive blows my mind. It's really kind of
Yeah.
spectacular.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
have the stories to share of these challenges that you've had to overcome. How would you say that these challenges, and there are many, um worked on your mental health? How did that affect your mental health?
Ironically, while I was going through them, my mental health was on point. The problem, it's like I say, like when you're on, I used to ride crotch rockets before I injure myself falling out of bed now, so I'm like not getting up on a bike, but it
Uh-huh.
reminds me of being on a bike, and it's cold air outside and you're going 80,
Hmm.
but you're not cold until you stop. And then all of
Hmm.
a sudden you're freezing. You're like, "Oh, it's cold out here," but you weren't cold when you're flying down the road. Well, that's how I kind of equate my survivor mechanism. Okay.
Hmm.
So while it was necessary, my mental health issues, whatever was going on in my head, worked perfectly. It was
Yeah.
exactly what I needed. It was what I needed when I needed it.
Yeah.
It was when I didn't need it anymore that it became a disorder. It was when
Mm,
survival mode could not be turned off.
yeah.
I get adrenaline even right now. Like if somebody walks by my car too close, I'm not getting out of the car because I'm fight or flight in that moment.
Correct.
I have all of these and I needed them. But so the mental health, I think, I think when it was healthy, this mental state that I'm in, it
Yeah.
worked. It was healthy.
Worked well. Yeah, but
Yep. But after I
it
didn't
was
need it,
after effect. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, for sure.
And what have you done to help you manage and process a lot of these things now?
Well, denial is very effective. I
Hmm.
recommend it for at least the first 20 years of your life, just no, I'm just kidding. No, but that is where I rested. I rested in denial. I thought the whole world was crap and I was the best person. I was just surrounded by the worst.
Hmm.
Everywhere I had no accountability because you don't grow up with accountability when bad things are constantly happening to you.
Correct.
So it
Correct.
takes some shift to say, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm being a jerk." Like
Hmm.
I need to stop raging because think my life has shifted.
Yeah.
I'm no longer the foster kid. Why am I living like a foster kid? Why am I
Hmm.
still living in that same rage, in that lack of focus? And so it took a long time. And I also had a stigma against uh, um, therapy and psychiatry because when you're a foster kid, as long as I was, and you're a level 4 or whatever they call the bad ones, you're on every drug. You are the guinea pig, especially in the 90s. They had no idea what
Mm,
they were doing. I mean, I was smarter than every therapist, and I'm saying that with hindsight involved. Okay, I would have said that
yeah.
then, but
Hmm.
I'm saying it confidently. I would end up assessing them. So and they would open up to me. Weird. So I grew up not trusting therapy, not trusting psychology, not trusting medicine. I couldn't even take a Tylenol without going into some weird like panic state
Yeah.
because like what's it doing to my kidneys and my liver and my brain? So it took some really great friends that I have. I made a great friend about 10 years ago, and she is still my friend today, my friend Muriel. And she was she was kind of the one that was like, she was so open. She's gone through so much, but she's so eloquent and beautiful. And you don't look at her and see any of the shit that she's been through. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You look at her and you see this kind person. Me like, oh, what? It's always like, yeah, I have you. Hey. And I thought, wow, I've never been connected with somebody. Well, she, you know, she was going through therapy and just talked about the positive things. And it took her a couple of years of convincing me, but she didn't even try to convince, but talked about it in a positive light. And then I finally thought, I'm going to try it out again. And it didn't work for me the first few times, by the way. I still in my head was aggressively ready for them to be failures. It's still something I deal with therapy. I need somebody so much smarter than me. I need Freud because he could put me in a chair, right?
Yeah.
So, so it took a lot. I had to get over the denial. I had to be okay with my story. I had to stop lying about my past. I had to stop lying about who I was. And then eventually it became an empowerment story. And it was self-therapeutic. Sure. Yeah.
No. It is. I mean, to be able to share your story the way that you do, for me to be able to kind of share the stories and the things that make me, it took a lot. And I'll tell you what kind of sent me there. I had a couple of things. There was my wife has two friends that were very similar in nature, and then I tracked back, but for some reason I just didn't like them. I was just like, I can't put my finger on it. Right. And they were dominant. It was a certain personality type. I was like, I've seen this soul before. I don't understand. It didn't go well for me, right? But I didn't put all of the connections together. And then one day I'm sitting there and I'm stewing. And I just really, what I felt is I felt less safe. And I asked myself the question, what did they do to me? And then I thought about everything, and they didn't do anything to me. And then I go, where did this come from? Right. And then I was talking to my wife. I was like, where did this come from? And then we tracked it down. It was like, it's the relationship with your mom. Right. She was dominant. She was kind of like these things to you. She controlled you. She didn't allow you to do things and all of that stuff. Right. And then that's when I was like, I got to go to therapy. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so that was
it.
like, exactly. So that was like the first door to therapy. So it was that. And apparently it was like there, and it was obvious. And I'm a smart guy. I don't like to be caught off guard.
Right.
Kind of like when you could probably relate to this, but because I had to be so aware of everything happening, right, at any given time, your awareness is very high. For me to be caught off guard, I was like, that's heavy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. That hyper vigilance is what you and I actually share in common. And people used to use it against me as an insult, but nothing got by me. Here's the fun flip side to that, though, is I'm always afraid something will. So I'm always on high alert. So it's like I can never turn it off. Like nothing gets by me. I can hear if my son starts breathing differently in the room, like his breath is changing. I'm like, are you okay? But I can see and but that kind of vigilance is another thing that probably saved your life and definitely saved mine.
It did 100% did, and there's good reasons for it, and I'll share this story. There's one day I'm walking through a field, and then like I said, I pay attention to everything, right? So there's this guy, he's driving in a car, and I'm walking through the field. I'm close to the street, and then he stops his car, he opens his door, and then he proceeds to walk towards me, right? And in my particular neighborhood, there's always someone outside.
Right.
I just remember I looked up the street because I was only like a half a block away, and then there was like no one outside. Right. It gave me goosebumps. My hair kind of grew, and then I just shot out.
I don't know how, but you just gave them to me.
It gave me goosebumps again because I'm remembering this thing. I just shot out like a cannon, right? And I ran. He was trying to abduct me, and he jumped in his car. You hear the tires screeching. I jumped over a fence and hid. And this was like just very crazy experience. But this hyper vigilance definitely kept me,
Saved you.
kept me safe. But
Wow, I was expecting it to be more of a story of I thought he was coming after me. I'm glad that you are hyper vigilant because see, for me, my story would have ended, oh, and it turned out he was chasing his dog and I was just irrationally hiding. Because for me, everybody's always trying to attack me at all times. So
no,
I'm glad that you saved yourself because
yeah, I know.
your situation was real.
Yeah, it was real. It was real, and then it was. But anyways, all right. So important to have that but now, I when I entered therapy after catching this thing, right? I then asked myself, well, what else have I had to make adjustments for in the past, right? When you come from such a survival experience, what adjustments have you had to make, to survive that you have to kind of turn on its head? I don't know if you know those answers.
I mean, what I had to make more recently is you brought up a good point with kind of the well, I was going to go into it with the hypervigilance.
Mhm.
I've had to really, so what that turned into when it becomes unnecessary is it turns into agitation. So I just
Mhm.
now get easily annoyed because like too many sounds. Like if somebody is using their cell phone and I'm watching TV, I'm looking at you like people die all the time and their bodies are never found. Why are
Mhm.
you doing this? And it's like, really, I'm like, is it that big a deal?
Yeah.
No, but I can't turn
No.
it off. So I've had to really look inward. Being self-aware does not a sane person make. Okay.
Mhm.
So I am very aware now of all of the things that I'm dealing with. Before, you're not aware when you're using them because a
Mhm.
crazy person doesn't know they're crazy
Correct.
until they
Mhm.
slow down.
Yeah.
And so I'm now so aware. I'm aware of, my irrational fears. I'm aware of, the things that I mean, it's not a magical cure. You're not just healed, and maybe some people never will be. But the thing that I think the adjustment that I made was I stopped lying, and by that I mean I stopped lying about who I was. I hated every to Canadian parents who died. I never told the true story because my embarrassment, my shame, they were still living and I still wasn't their kid. I was still an adult, I was an adult now. I still don't
Mhm.
have parents to call. So they're dead
Yeah.
to me. So I made up
Mhm.
all of these stories. I made up all of these names to the point where I couldn't run into the same person again because I don't
Mhm.
know what story I
Because
told you.
you don't know what story you told. Yeah.
What I do know is I never told my story and I never wanted to. And when I decided about 10, maybe 5 years ago, I'm honestly, it's new growth for me that my foster care story was an empowering story.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's what helped me shift. That's what helped me. It's helping me still though. The shift hasn't completed.
Yeah. I mean, we're always a we're always a work in progress, right?
Sure.
And then, so I remember when I get into therapy and I share these parts of me for the first time about just everything, and she was just like, this is what she said to me. She's like, Sam, your story is beautiful. Sam, your story is beautiful. Sam, your story. I
Oh,
just remember, but then she said, Sam, I could also hear it when you tell your story, and that's why you don't, is you're ashamed,
yes.
right?
Shame. Yep.
And I was like, yeah, that's it. Right. I'm ashamed to tell a story that's
Yeah.
as hard as mine. Right. I'm ashamed that because a lot of rejection that I never was received a certain type of way. And
Yep.
everybody else's life looked quite different than mine. I was ashamed. But then I realized the connection that I made as well is, would I be in position to do the mission that I'm on in foster care without these experiences? And the answer is no. right?
No,
There's certain type
absolutely
of
not.
things that you see and you experience, and you're kind of like, this doesn't sit right with me. I got to do something.
That is such a good point. I want to say something. I want to commend you on taking your past traumas and turning it into a future purpose and doing that for other kids who are experiencing trauma and displacement. Because um, this, look, I don't walk on eggshells on my Enough Fluff series in my interview with a foster kid, but I'm going to be super nice right now. There are some people in foster care who are leading by their hearts, and they are ignorant, and they are inadvertently ruining lives. When you take me in, you're like, oh, I'm going to take this foster kid in. I'm going to buy her new shoes. Oh, look at this bed set. I'm going to set up the room. She's going to have everything she wants. Her problems will be solved. Look at me. I'm a hero. And then I'm going to put pictures of her online and be like, look what I did for this. And it's like, that's the heart, and who knows if they're even good intended. I'd like to say they're well intended, because I don't know their intentions. What I do know is they're doing a devastating disservice, because when the fluff ends, when it's over, you're kicking me back out. Now I'm being displaced again. I'm not keeping all that cool stuff that you got. I'm leaving with my 2 trash bags of my things, and I'm going somewhere else because you led with your heart and you didn't lead with your head, and you didn't know what you were getting in with. I am not a forever puppy. I am a traumatized, displaced child who doesn't want to live with you, because there is a chance that my life might work out with my family. And so those are the kind of things I love where you're coming from, because I hate to say this, but you have to be a traumatized person or have experience to get into foster care, or you are up Schitt's Creek, and I can't help you out. Like, I'm not going to be a better kid in my trauma because you don't know what you're doing.
It's not for the faint at heart. Let's put it like that.
No, but they're the ones signing up.
Yeah. No, I agree. And what I love about the organizations that we are with, it's and the foster families, that there's about 6 or 7 of us. We all do life together. It's a faith-based organization, but what that's kind of showed me is real community, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably about, how many kids would I say? Maybe about like 10 kids between all of the families, right? And we get together and we'll do a holiday together. We'll do park day. We just do life together, right? So now these kids are getting to kind of grow up together. So it is a very different experience than what you experience, and I'm sorry that you went through that, but I just wanted to share that with you.
I love what you're doing. I'm going to tell you, they say the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, and what you're creating is a family. I am so close to all of my foster siblings around the world. I did a drop-in episode today. I had a foster. I almost got emotional just now. I had a foster sibling still in care, and they're so disconnected, but he has social media, and he came across accidentally, and he reached out to me, his own adoption advertisement on social media, talking about, it had his face on there, and I'm not going to cry right now, but I like horses. I like this, I like soccer, advertising him and as a product. And he had no idea that he was up for adoption. He's still hoping that his grandma and his mom get him. And he has his face on an adoption. Nobody talked to him. Nobody is his community. He is in a situation, apparently it's just him as a foster kid and their 4 kids. And they're trying to adopt him. And he's terrified that it'll work, because he doesn't love your story, because it's like you're giving them that covenant. You're giving them that connection. You're giving them purpose. This kid does not have purpose right now. He's being sold online, and so the stories that I hear from you, they give me hope. I wish I could hear more. Unfortunately, we're flooded with impossible situations.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's one of the things I do, and I speak to different foster families, and I talk about some of the challenges of growing up in a traumatic, life experience, and understanding that this is their normal, right?
Yeah.
You might look at it as, hey, this kid is chaotic, but he or she is in their version of normal. And if you understand that, that's the starting line. Right,
Yeah.
along with, being disconnected, not having community, hoping to
And
be
what is
back with
normal?
parents, and
Yeah.
exactly,
What is it? Like,
but that is their normal, whatever that
right,
is.
right. Yeah.
And you got to just kind of love them through that.
Yeah.
So just wanted to, just kind of share that.
I think the teaching them to love themselves too is so important, because really what we do, what I did, what held me back for a long time when I first aged out, I continued to seek the validation of my mother and of the people who abused me. I literally chased after her almost as pathetically as I did as a child. And it wasn't until the last scorn, it was
Hmm.
about 10 years ago that I was like, yeah, I am over you,
Hmm.
but learning validation, learning self-love, learning community, learning that you can be loved by others, that bad
Hmm.
things happened, but you're not the only one that these bad things happen to. It takes the onus, the responsibility of what happened to us off of us when we're not the only ones, when we know it was wrong.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure, for sure. So well, you are a creator now. So tell me some of the things that you are working on.
So my interview with the foster kid podcast, I'm super excited about that. You reached out to me. That was amazing. I just didn't expect the validation to be so fast. It's been therapeutic. I've gotten to talk to a lot of siblings in the foster care system who have reached out to me. That's been therapeutic. Being a big sister to them has
Yeah,
been amazing.
yeah,
And the fact that they're looking to me for, I'm getting an array of different requests. And sometimes I have to be like, I don't know, but I can refer you to somebody. But there are conversations I'm having now, and I'm starting actually a segment on Interview with a Foster Kid. I have one that is enough fluff. That one's not for the faint of heart. So don't
okay.
tune in if you're needing a pick me up, because I'm going to say everything exactly the way that I lived it.
Yes, 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 yes.
But then we have the foster files from the void. So they're letters to the void. And this is a creative space it's a hub for my foster siblings and me. And it's for the letters that we wanted to write to people but never sent.
Mm,
They're going to be able to speak those. They can either use the ambiguity of my voice to narrate, or they can come out and they can tell those people who might not open a letter but might get to hear
yeah.
might get to hear their episode. They're going to be doing creative spoken pieces, poetry, different things like that. The ones who want to narrate and come out full blown, like, hey, this is me and this is my voice, absolutely. And if not, then I'll produce it for them so that they can
Yeah,
at least
but
get their story out.
yeah, so you're giving voice to foster kids, aged out kids that for the first time haven't ever used their voice, right?
Yeah,
Or shared their story to,
I
peel
hope
back
so.
these layers. No, you're not hoping so. You're doing you're doing it,
It's
you know?
intense,
Yeah,
you always feel like you're going to do a disservice. You're not going to do enough. And I'm just like, the more it happens, I'm like, oh my God, am I enough? Like, am I going to be able to, this issue is so pervasive. It's so intense and it's so widespread. And it's like, so I'm open to it. I want people to reach out to me. I want my foster siblings to come to me. And, but yeah, it's intense. It's intensely overwhelming. But did it freeze up?
yeah, a little bit. But go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Awkward silence. No.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. So,
No.
you shared a lot. I want to just kind of just open it up to you, is if there's any other things that you want to share about, your journey, your mission, what you're doing.
Well, I think you put words to it. My mission is to give a voice to my foster siblings. My mission is to amplify their voices and to give them their purpose back, because that's what's stolen from us when we're in the foster care system. I'm going to bring out so much awareness. I have a lot of legislative knowledge in this. I've worked on this politically back in Arizona. Not to the extent that I plan on, though. It was like hobby activism. I am absolutely activated now. I'm working on things. When my foster siblings write to me and they tell me this is what's going on, you better bet that you have an ally, because I'm on it. I'm done letting my siblings fade out into the dark. I'm done letting them disappear without even a milk carton. I'm over it. And we're coming out. They're foster siblings, they're alum, they're coming out for them. They're big sisters and brothers, and we're going to make change. I have a group of people.
For sure. I feel it. I know you're definitely a change maker, and I'm just kind of happy to have, hosted you. One of the things that we always end with is, what is your best lessons learned from life and in business?
Best lessons learned from life. I don't know if I'm being repetitive, but do you, be you. There to people, the Guinness Book of World Records proves that there is something for everybody, that life is full of absurdities, but everything has its place. Don't take yourself out of the equation. Put yourself into the world with purpose and be exactly you, because you are filling an area that somebody else needs covered. So I think that was my epiphany. That's what changed my how I valued myself, and I think that that's what's going to drive me into really, really making change.
No, for sure. So just want to thank you for coming on. Thank you guys for joining us on the Pro Design Builder. It's not just about building a business, it's about building a vision and a life by design. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.